Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island lies a structure unlike anything else in the Pacific. Massive terraces, sharp corners, towering pillars, and geometric blocks arranged with a precision that seems impossible for nature alone. Divers who first saw it swore it resembled ruins from a forgotten city, carved into the seafloor and swallowed by the ocean. Others insist it is nothing more than bizarre geology. Tonight, we explore one of the world's most controversial underwater mysteries, the Yonaguni Monument. Lost megaliths or natural formation? You decide. Subscribe for more deep ocean mysteries grounded in real history. The story begins in 1986, when a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake was searching for hammerhead sharks near Yonaguni Island. Instead, he stumbled upon something entirely unexpected, a massive staircase-like formation rising from the seabed. Its edges so straight and its surfaces so flat that he first assumed it was a man-made platform. The structure appeared to be the size of a small building, with multiple levels descending into deeper water. It didn't match anything known on nautical charts. Aratake's discovery raised immediate questions. The formation's lines were unnervingly clean, 90-degree angles, symmetrical terraces, and stone blocks stacked in ways that reminded many of ancient temples. Some sections looked like broad platforms, others resembled corridors carved with intention. Many divers felt an eerie sense of architectural order, as if they were swimming through an abandoned plaza built thousands of years ago. Word spread quickly, igniting curiosity among scientists, adventurers, and mystics alike. When archaeologist Masaki Kimura first visited the site, he was stunned by its scale. The structure extended for hundreds of feet, dwarfing divers with walls that looked cut, not weathered. Kimura believed he saw evidence of steps, carvings, and even what resembled a road running along the perimeter. To him, Yonaguni was not a coincidence of nature, it was the remains of an ancient city, submerged 20 meters under the sea. His conviction sparked decades of debate. But the academic world was divided. Many geologists dismissed the formation as a classic example of natural fracturing. Sandstone in the region breaks along horizontal and vertical lines, forming blocks with surprisingly geometric shapes. According to them, Yonaguni was simply nature at its most deceptive. Yet even among skeptics, one point was difficult to ignore. The sheer concentration of right angles and flat surfaces on a single site was unusual, prompting questions that resisted simple explanations. As more divers explored Yonaguni, new features emerged, structures that seemed even more deliberate. One area appeared to be a large rectangular stage, another looked like a stone gate. Some divers claimed to see patterns carved into walls, though erosion made details difficult to confirm. A particularly striking feature was a towering monolith shaped like a fin rising from the seafloor, giving the site an almost ceremonial aura, as if marking an entrance to something significant. Local legends added fuel to the speculation. Okinawan folklore speaks of a lost civilization called Mu or the Ryukyu Atlantis, an ancient kingdom said to have vanished beneath the waves after a great catastrophe. While most historians treat these tales as mythology, their existence heightened the sense of mystery surrounding Yonaguni. To many, the structure felt too aligned with these legends to be coincidence, as if ancient stories were whispering clues from beneath the ocean's surface. Geological studies attempted to clarify the debate. Some researchers argued that Yonaguni's layered sandstone naturally produces terrace-like formations when exposed to erosion. Strong currents, earthquakes, and tectonic activity in the region could sharpen edges and create clean breaks. Yet this explanation struggled when confronted with certain features, such as what appeared to be a series of uniform steps descending in perfect intervals, or a platform with edges aligned almost perfectly north-south. Natural processes don't typically favor symmetry. Kimura and his team spent years mapping the formation, documenting potential artifacts that suggested human involvement. They identified what they believed might be post holes, flat paving stones, and even patterns resembling walls. Kimura proposed that the site could be over 10,000 years old, dating back to a time when sea levels were much lower. If true, Yonaguni might represent the oldest megalithic complex on Earth, far older than the pyramids or Stonehenge. But such claims remain controversial. Opponents countered that Kimura's interpretations were driven by pattern recognition, the tendency to see design where none exists. They argued that erosion can mimic architecture, especially in regions with strong ocean currents and frequent seismic activity. Earthquakes can shear rock into rectangular shapes, waves can erode surfaces into smooth plains. To skeptics, Yonaguni was a masterpiece of natural geology, not ancient engineering. The challenge was distinguishing deliberate human shaping from nature's surprisingly architectural tendencies. As debate intensified, detailed surveys revealed even more curious features. One section of the site resembled a large courtyard bordered by straight-edged walls, forming an almost perfect quadrilateral. Another appeared to be a series of narrow corridors running parallel to one another, suggestive of an intentional layout rather than chaotic natural fracturing. The precision of these shapes astonished divers, who noted that natural sandstone rarely maintains such consistent geometry across multiple adjacent structures. Some divers reported what looked like a massive staircase rising from the seabed, with steps nearly 2 meters tall. While critics argue such steps could form through natural splitting, the uniformity and alignment created a distinctly architectural impression. The staircase faced toward open ocean, almost like a ceremonial approach. Its imposing scale led some researchers to believe it once served as a monumental pathway, though no consensus has emerged on whether its origin is geological or engineered. Attention eventually turned to the nearby reefs and smaller formations around Yonaguni. Satellite imagery and sonar scans showed that the main monument might not stand alone. Instead, it could be part of a wider complex of terraces, ridges, and block-like structures stretching along the island's southern coast. Some researchers argued this suggested a larger settlement or ceremonial area. Geologists countered that the surrounding seabed naturally fractures in similar patterns, creating the illusion of a coordinated layout. One of the most debated features is the so-called triangle pool, a depression with sharply defined edges forming a near-perfect triangle. Supporters of the artificial hypothesis say its geometry is too exact to be natural. Critics respond that nature occasionally forms geometric depressions through intersecting fracture lines, especially in regions shaped by tectonic uplift. The disagreement showcases the core problem of Yonaguni. What seems intentional to one expert appears coincidental to another. Cultural context further complicates the discussion. Archaeologists note that early Ryukyu cultures built simple stone structures but left no evidence of large-scale megalithic construction. If Yonaguni were artificial, it would imply the existence of a sophisticated prehistoric culture with engineering capabilities far beyond anything confirmed in the region. This possibility excites alternative historians but forces mainstream researchers to apply strict caution. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, something the current data can't yet provide. Over years of exploration, divers uncovered what some interpreted as possible carvings, linear grooves, symbols, and small indentations on certain walls. Proponents argued these markings resembled proto-writing or ceremonial etchings. Geologists countered that most of these shapes follow natural fault lines or appear at stress points where rock breaks predictably. Without clear, unambiguous symbols, it remains impossible to confirm intentional artistry. The ocean's erosion adds further uncertainty, obscuring whatever details may have existed originally. Yet even skeptics admit one puzzling fact: if Yonaguni is entirely natural, it represents an exceptionally striking example of geological symmetry. Its terraces span large distances with surprising uniformity. Its blocks appear stacked in patterns that mimic deliberate construction. Some underwater archaeologists, though unconvinced of human involvement, argue that the site deserves classification as a geological wonder, one of the most architecturally convincing natural formations discovered beneath the ocean. One aspect often overlooked is Yonaguni's proximity to ancient migration routes. During the last ice age, much of the East China Sea was shallower or exposed land. Human populations moved across these regions, leaving traces from Japan to Taiwan. If an ancient settlement once stood where Yonaguni now lies, rising sea levels at the end of the Pleistocene could have swallowed it. This theory remains speculative, but it aligns with known patterns of early coastal habitation. Some researchers even propose that Yonaguni might be a hybrid structure, part natural, part modified by humans. According to this theory, natural terraces provided the base, while early inhabitants enhanced and shaped specific sections for ceremonial or practical use. This interpretation explains both the natural fractures and the seemingly intentional geometry. Similar hybrid sites exist worldwide, where ancient cultures refined already striking natural formations into places of ritual significance. The mystery deepened when divers discovered what appeared to be a stone pillar separated from the main monument. The pillar, roughly cylindrical and almost perfectly vertical, seemed too regular to be accidental. Some argued it might have once stood upright on land before collapsing into the sea. Others insisted it was simply a coincidence of erosion. The debate reflects the broader challenge of Yonaguni, evidence that intrigues but never confirms, leaving open questions that spark ongoing fascination. As exploration expanded, interest shifted toward the deeper sections of the monument, where strong currents and limited visibility made diving difficult. In these depths, divers found large flat surfaces resembling plazas, some stretching tens of meters in length. The sheer scale of these structures impressed even the most skeptical geologists. Natural formations can be massive, but the combination of flat plains, straight edges, and interconnected terraces created an uncanny sense of engineered space. Some divers claimed to identify what looked like a massive archway or entrance formed by two vertical slabs flanking a recessed corridor. While erosion can produce such features, the symmetry of the slabs and their arrangement struck many as intentional. Supporters of the artificial hypothesis noted that similar gateway designs appear in ancient cultures across Asia. Critics maintained that these similarities were coincidental, driven by human tendency to seek familiar patterns in random shapes. Masaika Kimura's maps of Yonaguni introduced another controversial idea, that the site may contain a network of roads or walkways. His diagrams depicted long, straight channels running parallel to the main monument, forming what looked like pathways or drainage systems. Geologists countered that these channels corresponded to natural fault lines, split by tectonic pressure over thousands of years. Yet the unusual consistency in width and direction left room for speculation. It was a geological puzzle with architectural undertones. To better understand the site, researchers conducted underwater laser scans and 3D modeling. The data revealed that many edges were indeed straight, not perfectly so, but more precise than typical sandstone formations. The models also showed elevation changes that seemed too deliberate to be random. Yet at the same time, natural erosion clearly played a role, rounding some corners and smoothing others. The result was a perplexing blend of natural and possibly modified features that challenged definitive classification. Discussion escalated when divers discovered a large structure nicknamed the Turtle, a rounded block sitting atop a flat platform. The block's shape vaguely resembled a turtle shell, giving the impression of a sculptural element. Kimura believed it to be evidence of artistic work, perhaps representing a guardian figure or symbolic marker. Skeptics insisted it was just a coincidentally shaped rock. But even critics admitted that its position, balanced neatly on a flat surface, was unusual.
Another curious feature is the diving pool, a deep rectangular cavity with walls that appear unnaturally vertical. Some argue it looks like a quarry pit or reservoir carved from stone. However, natural processes such as vertical fracturing and sudden collapses can create similarly shaped cavities in sedimentary rock. The difficulty lies in distinguishing between intentional excavation and the chaotic effects of earthquakes, especially in a region as tectonically active as the Ryukyu Arc. Historical context further complicates interpretation. Records of prehistoric Japanese cultures show evidence of stone tools, ritual sites, and early settlements, but nothing approaching the monumental scale implied by Yonaguni. If the structure were artificial, it would push back the timeline of large-scale construction in the region by thousands of years, requiring a re-evaluation of early East Asian civilization. Such implications make many archaeologists hesitant to accept the possibility, preferring geological explanations that align with known cultural development. Yet some researchers propose that Yonaguni might belong to a long-lost maritime culture that left minimal traces inland. Coastal civilizations, especially those built close to shorelines, are vulnerable to sea level rise. As the Ice Age ended and oceans rose more than 100 meters globally, entire settlements could have been submerged. If such a culture existed near the Ryukyu Islands, Yonaguni might represent the eroded skeleton of their architecture, a fragment of a civilization washed away by time and tide. Local divers also noted unusual tool-like stones scattered around the site. Some appeared shaped or sharpened, though ocean currents could easily produce similar forms. Without definitive marks of craftsmanship, these stones remain ambiguous, but their presence, combined with the monument's crisp geometry, encourages ongoing speculation. If even one confirmed artifact were found embedded in the structure, the debate would shift dramatically. But after decades of diving, no such artifact has been recovered beyond doubt. Drone footage taken from above the water reveals another intriguing aspect. The monument aligns almost perfectly with the island's natural ridges and undersea topography. This suggests two possibilities. Either ancient builders intentionally oriented their structures with the landscape, or the formation followed geological lines laid down over millennia. The alignment neither proves nor disproves human involvement, but it demonstrates that Yonaguni sits at a geological crossroads, a place where nature and potential history blur into one enigmatic whole. Scientific teams continued revisiting Yonaguni through the 2000s, hoping that new technology could resolve the debate. High-resolution sonar scans revealed that several of the monument's flat surfaces stretch across astonishing distances with minimal irregularity. These findings reignited discussions among geologists who agreed that natural bedding planes can form long, smooth surfaces. Yet the consistency and orientation of Yonaguni's plains seemed unusually well preserved. Marine archaeologists conducting structural analysis observed that many of the monument's walls appear to have fallen inward, as if part of a larger structure had collapsed. While this can occur naturally through tectonic uplift, the angles and directions of the fallen slabs hinted at controlled breaks rather than chaotic destruction. The observation was not conclusive, but it fueled speculation that if the site were artificial, it might have collapsed due to earthquakes long before the sea swallowed it. One of the most striking features revealed through modern mapping is a long, straight boulevard, a corridor-like trench bordered by parallel walls. Divers often describe swimming through it as moving between ancient streets. Geologists acknowledge the trench aligns with major fracture lines in the bedrock, but the symmetry remains uncanny. The depth, width, and smoothness of the passage evoke a sense of architectural intent. The region's seismic history adds further intrigue. Yonaguni lies along the boundary of several tectonic plates, an area prone to violent shifts and underwater landslides. These forces can produce clear breaks and geometric formations, yet they can also destroy anything fragile or artificial. This duality makes Yonaguni difficult to interpret. If it is natural, geology explains the shapes. If it is artificial, geology explains why only fragments remain. Ocean currents also play a significant role. Yonaguni sits in a powerful confluence of warm and cold water streams that carve the seabed continuously. These currents polish rock faces, exaggerating straight lines and clearing debris that might otherwise reveal clues of human intervention. Some scientists argue the monument's sharp angles are simply the result of millennia of oceanic abrasion. As the mystery grew, cultural researchers examined local legends more closely. The Ryukyu Islands have rich mythologies involving sea spirits, submerged kingdoms, and catastrophic floods. Some tales describe entire islands disappearing when the sea rose in anger, a poetic reference to post-ice age sea level rise. While not historical documents, these stories may preserve echoes of ancient memories. Kamira's most controversial claim emerged from this cultural research: the idea that Yonaguni could be part of a lost civilization older than any recorded in Japan. He suggested the site might have belonged to a prehistoric maritime culture with advanced stoneworking skills. Predating the Jomon period by thousands of years, critics argued this theory lacked material evidence. Skeptics responded with their own argument. If an ancient civilization constructed Yonaguni, similar remains should appear elsewhere nearby. While some rock formations on land resemble terraces, most geologists attribute these to natural erosion. Without multiple correlated sites, claims of a lost city remain speculative. Despite skepticism, anomalies remain difficult to dismiss. Measurements show many terraces maintain consistent height intervals, resembling modular planning. Some edges align with cardinal directions more closely than random chance would suggest. These patterns challenge simple geological explanations. As divers descended deeper, they found block-like stones scattered across the seabed, arranged in clusters resembling collapsed structures. Geologists argue these blocks broke naturally, but mineral analysis revealed stress marks inconsistent with random fracturing. Geologists later noted some fracture patterns appeared unusually clean, as if pressure had been applied deliberately. This raised the possibility that ancient inhabitants may have exploited natural weaknesses in the rock to shape it more easily. Further exploration revealed sand and coral lodged between large slabs. Some argued this suggested the slabs once stood above sea level before submersion. Others countered that underwater currents could explain the deposits. Dating the monument remains one of the greatest challenges because it is carved into bedrock. Radiocarbon dating is impossible. Researchers instead analyze marine organisms attached to surfaces to estimate submersion age. Current estimates place submersion roughly 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, coinciding with global sea level rise. This timeline complicates interpretation, as known cultures from that era show no evidence of monumental stone construction. Some scholars argue humanity's past contains large gaps. Coastal settlements are especially vulnerable to erasure by rising seas. In this context, Yonaguni fits a global pattern of submerged prehistoric sites. Others emphasize that nature can produce highly organized formations. Examples like the Giant's Causeway demonstrate how geological processes can mimic human architecture. Still, the emotional impact of Yonaguni cannot be denied. Divers often report a strange sense of presence while navigating the monument, as if swimming through halls built with intention. Yonaguni sits at the intersection of science and imagination. Geologists see tectonics, archaeologists see ruins, locals see myth. Each perspective reflects a different lens on the same evidence. Ultimately, the true nature of Yonaguni may remain unresolved. Its depth, currents, and remoteness limit excavation. Without definitive artifacts, classification remains elusive. Whether Yonaguni is a natural geological masterpiece or the last remnant of an ancient civilization, it continues to captivate the world, challenges timelines, tests scientific certainty, and reminds us that beneath the ocean lie chapters of human history still waiting to be understood.